My name is Sid.
And I'm Miggs.
And welcome to a Limit Breakdown, where we will go over nerd stuff, basically do some reviews, talk about some trailers, kind of there are opinions about things that are happening in the nerd world. That will include everything from comics to TV shows to movies and everything in between.
And because we're uber nerds, we have an opinion on everything. So, at least I do.
Yeah.
The more recent things to get us going. We've both recently seen the new Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
What was your initial impression?
So, overall, I think it was a great movie. I genuinely think it was a fantastic movie and how they portrayed it. So, from my reading from the director, who he wanted to make, instead of like a franchise series per se, kind of like the Marvel series or Christopher Nolan's Batman, he wanted to make more of a thriller rather than a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And I think encompassing that idea, he did it really, really well. So overall, I generally loved it. There was a few things, nitpicky things, that I did not, one, like, or two, understand. But I think that is me coming from a purely, strictly nerd perspective. You know, like one of those diehard people like, oh, well, they said his name, we don't. Some things like that. But I think overall, I think it was a phenomenal movie. And I think that even the cast was really good.
I was pleasantly surprised with Robert Pattinson.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the Heath Ledger thing all over again. Originally with The Dark Knight, I was vehemently opposed to Heath Ledger. I'm like, that's the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You. That's terrible. And of course, he put that tremendous performance with this. Although I don't think it's obviously on the same scale. But I thought he did a good enough job portraying the character, and like you were mentioning, what the essence of what they were trying to do with it. This was much more into the roots of what Batman originally was. It felt much more like a detective thriller,
mm-hmm.
like a crime movie than it was more of an action movie. And obviously, it did still have its action set pieces and the incredibly well-timed ramp at the explosion.
Yeah, it felt a little Fast and Furious at that moment, but it was. I think they pulled it out.
Well. But it was great. But the him walking into the crime scene and taking in notes. There was a couple in the opening scene where the prosecutor
mm-hmm.
Had been killed. He, noticed some different blood splatter and spots that the forensic people hadn't taken note of yet, and just showing how, he's the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, so that was one thing that I actually really liked, how they showed Batman not just this brooding person that just kills and beats people up. They showed how... So how Batman got started in comics mm-hmm. way back in the day is he was more or less just the world's greatest detective, rather than just a superhero, just like over time, obviously, different comics were written and his persona became differently. Yeah. But he was always revered, number one, as one of the greatest detectives of MCU. Mm-hmm. Now, he's also a phenomenal fighter, and to your point, I think they did a great job with the fight scenes. I'm definitely one for like fight movies and stuff like that, and I think they did a great job. Yeah. It was very brutal, very Batman-esque type, and that's one thing that if you go back and watch the old Christopher mm-hmm. Nolan movies, even though Christian Bale's a phenomenal Batman, the fight scenes were they weren't there, right? They were very brutal, but they weren't there. Right.
Well, I also felt like it showed a whole lot of that initial rage. Like, this was a much younger Batman than what we're accustomed mm-hmm. to seeing. Yeah. So he had to learn restraint. He had to learn how to control some of like that first fight that he had against the group of clowns.
His entrance, the main entrance.
He beat the ever living.
Yeah, I thought it was a phenomenal entrance.
Yeah, the fight choreography. I mean, props to that stunt crew because it was. I mean, it looked like an actual brawl.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and I think speaking of that opening scene, I think the first opening scene where he's kind of going through his journal, which by the way felt very much like Watchmen to me.
And
when
I thought the same thing.
When
but
Rorschach does
I
that.
I loved that little detail too because
because you're now looking at it from his perspective.
Yeah, and they've never shown that before. That like he has a journal to basically write down all of the things that he has gone through. Yeah, no, it definitely showed a bunch of different sides to him. I was actually discussing this with another friend of mine who his takeaway was he didn't particularly like how this Batman was more brooding and wasn't putting himself out there as Bruce Wayne and was kind of secluding himself. And I think with it being such a younger timeline in the events of Batman, because it's supposed to take place right at the end of his second year as being Batman. So at this point, and this will go in towards the end of the movie, but like at this point he was very much focused on, I'm gonna bring justice to the unjust things that are happening. I am vengeance as that thing, and then as the movie progressed, when he was fighting the Riddler's goons, and then they're like, oh, who are you? And the guy repeats the line back to him, I'm vengeance. And so he realizes that he needs to be more, that he needs to be a symbol of hope in order for if he wants Gotham to actually progress, he needs to be not just not a vengeful symbol, but a symbol of hope for the city.
Which I think they did
that was really good.
The other thing that was in the opening scene of the movie that I thought was really well was I just like the quote was when you see the bat signal for the first time, and then they're like, it's not a bat signal for me, it's a signal to, I forgot the exact quote, but it's a signal to the criminals basically saying, beware of me.
Yeah.
Right? And then you can see where the fear in their eyes, and they're like, they think that I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows. And I thought that line was just phenomenal. The way they did that, I think, was a great thing.
How did you feel about the Riddler?
So I think his name is Paul Dano. Paul Dano did a really good job. He definitely had that creepy aspect, which
absolutely nailed
I was not expecting from the Riddler. In my mind,
I got Zodiac Killer vibes.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. And like in my mind, the comics that I've read, the Riddler was always a smart guy, but he was always kind of like elusive, not very like forward. Also Jim Carrey.
I was gonna say most people have the 1960s campy Riddler or Jim Carrey, and I absolutely look. Jim Carrey as the Riddler in Batman Forever has a soft spot in my heart. Like
Jim Carrey has a soft spot. I don't know about
that Batcave explosion scene. Oh my God, is everything to me.
But I think Paul Dano did a really, really good creepy vibe of the Riddler, and I think he did a great job with it. Because he had the I'm smart, here are my riddles, and he basically plays Batman the whole time. If you think about it, the whole time is him playing Batman. He's using Batman as a pawn to get his revenge. And I think, whenever something doesn't go his way, he goes on a complete mental insanity.
And it was very interesting too, the little twist at the end. And I don't know if you've ever read Hush.
Yes.
So
I was getting a very Hush vibe. I was gonna say. So for anyone that hasn't read, Batman Hush is one of the most phenomenal comic series that came out. If you haven't got a chance, you guys should read Batman
absolutely.
Hush.
Stop.
Really good. But yeah, I got a very Batman Hush vibe. And in all honesty, I thought that's who the villain was going to be until they were like, hey, it's a Riddler.
Yeah.
But the way he did it was...
Well, I again, we're in spoiler territory, obviously, but but in the end, when Batman is going to see the Riddler after he had, purposefully gotten locked up, and he's saying Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, and you see the picture.
Your heart kind of stops.
Yeah. Well, dude, and by the way, somebody posted a meme of Key and Peele, the one where he's sweating all over the place, and they're like Batman when Riddler's saying Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought that was very well done because this whole time you had seen inside the Riddler's apartment, and he had who is the Batman, and you were thinking, oh shoot, he put it together, and obviously that's what they were trying to get you to think, and then he hits him with the we almost had Bruce Wayne, and you can see like
the relief, oh man,
but that was pretty well done. Overall, I felt like it was a necessary viewpoint of the Riddler that we needed to see him as an actual possible villain. Threat. Yeah, because like you said, a lot of times the way the Riddler has been portrayed before, talked about Jim Carrey and the campy stuff from the Adam West Batman and stuff. Like he was always such a goofy character, and a lot of people even compared him, the Adam West Joker, to the Riddler, like almost like Scorpion Sub-Zero versions of each other. Like, oh yeah, it's just
that makes sense.
In a little bit of a different flavor, but this actually shows you what the Riddler actually could do and what he could be. And I'm not sure if I know Colin Farrell, who did an awesome job with the Penguin, by the way. I didn't even know that was Colin Farrell.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story in a second. But Colin Farrell, I'm sure where I was going with this, but God, now I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyways, I'll just tell you since I can't remember. So Colin Farrell, while he was in his Penguin outfit, you can actually see an interview of him. I think he did an interview with Conan O'Brien or Jimmy Fallon. But he says in the interview that he had his full makeup on and he needed something to eat or to grab a drink. So he went to a store to grab some food or get coffee or whatever, and nobody recognized him in his outfit. He's like, it was kind of a relief and kind of awe-inspiring at the same time that nobody could recognize me. Oh, what I was going to say was, so it's good to see Batman having different villains that are not popular.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you think of Batman villains, everybody first thinks of the Joker.
Yeah.
Right, which obviously Heath Ledger did a phenomenal job. He blew it out of the water. Same thing with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and that's Batman's main nemesis that people see. Yeah. I'm talking about in like the regular mainstream, but nobody thinks of like any of the sub characters that are still very threatful. Penguin. Well, Penguin's been in a few, but like Mr. Freeze or Riddler. My only quarrel with the Batman. I had a few, but one of the biggest ones. So, I think Rob Pattinson is a fantastic actor. He's a really talented actor. But whenever he was doing his detective work, specifically, he had this look. And it kind of got annoying after a while. He would look at something, he's just like...
there were a few moments where I felt like he had a deer in a headlight expression, and look, I agree with you. I think that he is a phenomenal actor. I kind of
it was just that.
So this is probably gonna be an unpopular take, but I don't particularly like Tobey Maguire as a Spider-Man. Right? Yeah, I know. Look, my favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. I'm sorry.
Andrew Garfield is good Spider-Man. I'll give you that.
But going back, I thought that Tobey Maguire was a good Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you.
I feel like Robert Pattinson is a good Batman. I haven't and again, the material in the movie didn't lend itself, and I feel like a lot of it had to do with that whole hope thing. Like he hadn't fully understood the need for that dual personality and the need for Bruce Wayne to have a public persona. Mm-hmm. So I think that plays a lot to do with it. But there were moments, like I said, like you were saying, where he was doing the detective work, or where like the one scene where he had with Falcone, where he went in as Bruce Wayne,
yep.
and he just he looked like a little kid.
You look emo as
yeah. I mean,
so
yeah.
emo.
I mean, the dark circles,
the dark circles, the hair.
It was very.
So that was going to be my second point. Was regardless. So like I said from the beginning, Matt Reeves, the director, did a great job of basically making a thriller movie that happened to be a superhero movie, not a superhero movie with thriller. However, regardless of what iteration of Batman you have, Batman always has two personas. He has the Bruce Wayne persona, which is usually very upbeat or very lively or something.
Yeah.
And then his brooding Batman.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that Matt Reeves wanted to switch it up a bit, and they didn't show much of the Bruce Wayne side, but I didn't feel like Ron Pattinson put in an effort to be Bruce Wayne, or at least show a differentiation.
Yeah.
For example, in the funeral scene when they go to the district attorney's funeral, was it district attorney's funeral?
Yeah, I believe so.
So when he goes to the funeral, he looks like he's the Batman.
Yeah.
Like he's walking in, the expression is the exact same. When all the stuff is going down, he looks back and he does the same.
Yeah.
Same stare, and I think that part kind of irked me.
Yeah.
So that was my other core, was there was no differentiation between his Batman and his Bruce Wayne, and then when he was doing his detective work, just a staring, just blatant staring, which I found very weird. Any quarrels with you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the interpretation of Bruce Wayne. Like I said, it might have had a lot to do with what they were going with as far as him not having figured out that Bruce Wayne angle of it yet. But like I said, it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. Like the Batman aspect of it, yeah. I think he did it good, but I also feel, I don't know, by nature of the stories of Batman, and look, it's not gonna be a big secret, I'm a Spider-Man guy. That's my hero. I'm not a Batman guy, but I've always felt that the most interesting part of Batman was everything but Batman. and looking back at the movies, like it's the villains are what's engaging. Heath Ledger in this, in the Dark Knight.
Heath Ledger made
the Dark Knight. Christian Bale was not a particularly compelling Batman. Like he's probably 3 out of 4 in my ranking.
Really?
As far as Batmans, yeah.
Who would be your number one Batman?
Keaton.
Michael Keaton? Okay.
Keaton's my number one.
So, good job. I actually really like Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
I was very skeptical because I think every iteration of Catwoman is vastly different from each other. Everyone remembers Halle Berry.
No.
Michelle Pfeiffer, yes. I was gonna go with Halle Berry's Catwoman movie. Because everybody thinks
there isn't a Hollywood model that doesn't look great in a cat suit, but and to Halle Berry's defense, there was only so much she could do with that script.
Yeah, you're right. You had to look at it from point. It was the actor or was it the script, right? Yeah. And I think that case was more the script.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer, I think, obviously phenomenal Catwoman, and then even Anne Hathaway, who I have a huge crush on Anne Hathaway, not only as just a beautiful woman, but as a phenomenal actor. She's a really good actress, sorry. And her Catwoman was pretty good, but I think nobody has... I think all 3 of those women, now 4, Zoe Kravitz, have such different interpretation of Catwoman that I can't pinpoint which one I think is truly Catwoman. The only parts in The Batman that you can see Zoe Kravitz doing like an actual Catwoman was the very first scene when you see her coming out of the balcony and she does a little cat thing and then jumps out, and I was like, okay. After that, not much. She just goes on to be a badass.
Yeah.
And then there was one other scene and she just used her whips as an extension rather than like a...
I loved that they didn't emphasize so much the sexuality of of Catwoman. Like it wasn't
right.
like. Because again, I mean, Halle Berry.
She didn't do the meow.
All
over the top.
That wasn't.
Corny
Although I did laugh at the fact that when they were in her apartment, she was drinking milk.
So they did those subtle nods that she is Catwoman, and I don't think they ever said that she's Catwoman, right? Or anything mentioned.
I don't think they called
she
her
just
that
likes cats, drank milk, and then her little
her
mask
little
thing had
the little Hey, there's a table there.
Yeah. But I think she did a phenomenal job with that. The only part that I think the scene, my other quarrel with the Batman, the scene when she turns on the bat signal and then Gordon and Batman show up and she's beating up that corrupt cop. She's just going to town on him, just beating the crap out of him for who knows how long. And then they realized, and there was a scene right before this where they talked about the rat with wings. And the Batman, as a great detective as he is, he's like, the Penguin? And I'm like...
Oh, I thought that was great. And
the next scene, he's like, a falcon has wings. And I'm like... What, like, you're supposed... he did a phenomenal job with the detective work, I think. But I feel like as a detective, you kind of...
No. The Penguin called him out on that, too.
Yeah,
he goes, you think a rat with wings is a penguin? He was like, sounds a lot like a bat to me.
And they're both like, you're right. I was like...
And and then he called him, he's like, world's greatest detectives over here.
Yeah, I was like, out of all the things, like, I felt like that should have been a given, like...
Yeah,
I'm not a very smart person, but if you say a rat with wings, I'm not gonna think of a penguin. Like, oh yeah, that's a rat with wings. Like,
I'm not a math magician, but this isn't adding up.
A pigeon would have been fine. Bat, obviously. Hell, that even at the end when they're like, a falcon has wings, I was like, I mean, it's a little stretch, but whatever. But a penguin. They might have said the ostrich, like. So that was another quarrel of mine.
A cat has a tail.
that was a little quarrel of mine. That was like I don't understand.
But nitpicks aside, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. Surprised about the runtime.
A whopping almost 3 hours.
Was it 2 hours 57 minutes?
Yeah, almost.
Like
I was gonna watch it. It's a 3 hour movie, and I look at the clock. I was like, no. So we had to like set aside a day, but
so
there was multiple spots in that movie where I think if the movie had ended, I would have still been satisfied. Yeah. Right. So the time that I really thought the movie was over when Batman brings out Falcone. And then Riddler just shoots him, and then they see him, and then they capture him in the diner.
Yeah.
Had they just ended the movie right there, I would have been like, okay, cool. Like that, I'm still satisfied. They kept going. The next one was him in the prison scene, which which we talked about earlier. They could have ended it right that. Still satisfied. They dragged it on, but they still maintained. My attention. And I think they did a really good job of maintaining that. I think they could have cut the movie short by like 30 minutes, cutting a few scenes here and there. But I think even though it's a long movie, it still grabs your attention.
Yeah, no, I was definitely thoroughly entertained. What was your thought on the it wasn't really a post scene, but I guess the end scene
with the Joker.
With the Joker. Well, is it the Joker?
So it is confirmed it's the Joker. I actually thought it's Two-Face. Because the way he's looking, he has this huge smile. I thought it was Two-Face for a second, but then...
I wasn't sure if that was already confirmed. Because I've heard both.
So it is confirmed that it was Joker.
Well, I thought so by the comment of people in the city think of me as a clown.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a...
Yeah, so that... But yeah, so because the riddle he gave, he's like, what do you have more of the more need or whatever it was? And he's like, friends. And that's what I thought it was Two-Face because he's like, I have two sides. But it is a Joker. It is confirmed by Matt Reeves. Okay. And if he does happen to make a sequel, the Joker is not going to be the main. He's going to be a sub-villain from my understanding. But no, I thought it was a good good ending to the movie. It leaves you not really a cliffhanger, but it's like a possibility that there might be a sequel, but then there's a possibility that it might not be because they're both in prison, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it was good. I think how they did it was really good.
So again, my endorsement, 2 nerd thumbs up.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal movie. Everyone needs to go watch it.
Yeah.
For any super nerds out there, if you guys want to read comics, I highly recommend Batman Hush to understand his backstory. They also pulled a lot of references
The Long
from Long Halloween and Batman Year One.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely check those out if you haven't. If nothing else, if you've never read a Batman story, The Long Halloween is, in my opinion, top tier Batman stories of all time. Yeah. Hush being close second.
Hush is probably one of my favorites. I think we can.
Yeah, I think this will about wrap it up. So we've talked some nerd stuff. We've talked some movies. We've talked Star Wars and Marvel and DC. Nothing but love here. So, but we're gonna try to do some more of these. We'll come up with some more ideas and stuff to talk about. And so we'll see you guys next time.
Cool. Thank you guys. Hope you enjoy.